against the Soviets back in the 1980s. Some of them became the Taliban, a group that America could not defeat after a 20-year-long war. The Chinese are committing the same mistakes today. They supported the Taliban only to end up with a target on their back. Terrorists of all hues are flourishing in Afghanistan today. The Taliban pretends to fight them, but they're all cut from the same cloth. They have sympathizers. They also have a power struggle going. So the Islamic State Khorasan is vying for power in Afghanistan, and it has put China on notice. It is recruiting ethnic minorities, the Uyghurs and the Baloch, two groups that have suffered at the hands of China. The ISIS is drawing from them. Let me show you how this is happening. 2 weeks back, a mosque was targeted in Kunduz in Afghanistan. At least 50 people were killed. The Islamic State was behind the suicide bombing. Do you know who was the suicide bomber? Reports say his name was Muhammad al-Uyghuri. He has been linked to the extremist Uyghur group from Xinjiang. Now, this is a region where China is carrying out a genocide. You would know that. More than 1 million Uyghurs are being persecuted by the Chinese state. A few extremist elements there are now trying to tie up with terror groups. Xinjiang is becoming the perfect recruitment ground for ISIS. And that's one part of the story. What about the Baloch? Where are they coming from? Last week, a mosque was attacked in Kandahar, the headquarters of the Taliban. There were two perpetrators. We have their names now, Abu Ali al-Balochi and Anas al-Khorasani. One of them, as I'm sure you can tell, was a Baloch. Just like the Uyghurs, the Baloch are no fans of the Chinese. They have suffered because of the China-Pakistan economic corridor. They've lost their land, livelihood and people. Some Baloch groups have taken up arms and they've been attacking Chinese citizens working in Balochistan. Now, some of them are joining terror groups in Afghanistan. So do you see the pattern here? The Baloch and the Uyghurs, two communities facing Chinese oppression. The Islamic State is happy to add them to their ranks. The Islamic State is exploiting existing divisions to create a force to fight China. The signal couldn't be more clear for Beijing at this point. The Islamic State has the Chinese on their hit list. They've had the Chinese on their hit list for a while now. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi had labeled China as the enemy way back in 2014. Why? Because of the crackdown against the Uyghurs. Even the violent founder of ISIS knew that China is torturing them. Baghdadi wanted to launch a jihad against China for the oppression of Uyghurs. In the years that followed, the ISIS amped up its propaganda against the Chinese. They came out with a video in 2017. It was called Children of the Caliphate. The video was made in Iraq. It featured around 30 Uyghur militants. There were children too, around 20 of them. They were shown in a training camp. The ISIS had a message for China. They threatened to, quote-unquote, come to China to spill rivers of blood. They wanted revenge on behalf of the oppressed, as they put it, and plant the caliphate's flag in China. The propaganda did not end with that video. The ISIS went on to produce at least 3 videos featuring Uyghurs. They even issued threats through an audio message in Mandarin. It led to a terrorist attack on the Chinese. In June 2017, terrorists from ISIS kidnapped 2 Chinese teachers from Balochistan. They were ultimately killed. And since then, China has played a victim card, but it's not a victim. Its deeds fuel the rise of terrorist threats, and it has created problems for the entire region. Look at this piece from the Global Times. It says the East Turkestan Islamic Movement, or the ETIM, has ties with the Al-Qaeda. This group was founded in Western China. Today, at least 200 ETIM members are currently in Afghanistan, according to reports. They are being sheltered by the Al-Qaeda. And they have clear backing from the Taliban. Now, despite knowing all of this, China went ahead and backed the Taliban. Now, ETIM is believed to be working with ISIS Khorasan, and Beijing continues to punish more than 1 million Uyghurs for the deeds of a few.